Hi, I am Tina and you are watching Money 9. Bitcoin was launched in 2009 as medium of exchange. Since then, the market has evolved and cryptocurrencies are now more used as an asset class. Today, we are going to talk about Ethereum, which is the second largest cryptocurrency in the world. It has gained popularity because of its use cases it has built on its network. To discuss this in detail, we have with us Vikram Suburaj. He is CEO and co-founder of Geotas Crypto Exchange. Vikram, I want to ask you about Ethereum. What is this Ethereum? We all know about Bitcoin. It is a simple case, it's a store of value, and we understand it. But when it comes to Ethereum, it looks like bit complicated. So if you can tell us what is Ethereum in simple language and what are some of its use cases that we can see it in our daily lives?
Yeah, thanks, Tina. There's a lot happening in the Ethereum space, at least in the last 1 year, right? There's been a movement that the Ethereum is trying to do from the traditional proof of work to proof of stake. Now, let me not get into detail on that right now. Now, each cryptocurrency was built with a different use case. Like you rightly said, Bitcoin is so simple. It's store of value. That's it. If you think of gold, you can easily equate it to a digital gold, which is Bitcoin, right? Ethereum is quite different, right? Ethereum, just for an example, consider it like a Play Store, right? In a Google Play Store, you will have multiple applications, be it your Google Pay or your Facebook app or your Uber app. So there are multiple applications which you can download from Google Pay, a Google Play Store, right? Consider Ethereum similar to that. It is a base on top of which you can build a lot of applications that need blockchain, right? It's as simple as that, right? Now, it's like a Google Play, right? On top of it, you can build a lending app, or you can build an NFT, which is the hot thing that is being spoken about right now. So you can build anything on top of this, right? So Ethereum has this capability because Ethereum has got a feature called smart contract, right? So you can write contracts, basically conditions on top of Ethereum. Let's take a simple example right now. I can, for example, write an insurance contract, right? I say after X years, this contract matures or this contract gets over, this insurance contract gets over. It's a simple contract, right? So all this you can define it on top of Ethereum. Now, there have been a lot of other cryptocurrencies which have been built similar to Ethereum to be able to write contracts on top, right? But Ethereum is the most famous one, which has got a lot of adoption right now. There's been a DeFi wave, the decentralized finance wave, which has worked beautifully on top of Ethereum. And now recently, I think there's a lot of NFT, the non-fungible token discussion that has been happening. It is again built on top of Ethereum, right? So in simple layman terms, consider it as again as a Play Store or a toolbox using which you can build anything, right? Which needs a blockchain interface.
So, very rightly said, we can see it as a toolbox on which the various applications are made. And another difference which comes to my mind is that Bitcoin is is finite in number, while Ethereum is not finite in number. We can have as many Ethereum as we want. And this brings me to the second question. We have recently seen Ethereum London update. If you can tell us what is this London update, since you have told us what is Ethereum, but what is this new update about?
It's called EAP 1559. That's the London fork, the hard fork, as we call it. I don't know. It has nothing much to do with London, but it's called the London fork, right? See, now, as you rightly pointed out, Ethereum's supply has been unlimited, right? So there was always a worry, right? Bitcoin is considered a deflationary asset, but Ethereum, on the other way, people had this worry, right? You can keep mining infinite number of Ethereums, right? So this London fork has actually solved a bit of that problem. Now, usually, what happens now when you want to send an Ethereum, right, an Ethereum transaction or any ERC20 contract or anything that runs, you have to pay a fee to the miner, right? Basically, let's consider this miner as someone who's not into crypto. Let's consider this miner as a general accountant, right? To get this entry enter into the blockchain, you need to pay this miner to get an entry that is into the blockchain. Now, usually, what has been happening in the past 4 to 5 years, at least since Ethereum has been launched, since there are a lot of projects that have been built on top of Ethereum, the Ethereum network most of the time gets clogged, right? Let's just consider Ethereum network as a highway road right now. 1,000 cars want to enter at the same point of time. It gets clogged. So what happens? The miner, for him to decide now which is the 1,000 entries I'll take or 500 entries I'll take and process first, what he will see is, okay, who's giving me the highest fees? It's like an open auction system. Whoever is paying the highest fees, he takes that 500 and puts it in the block and sends it over. Now, this became an issue when a lot of these applications, decentralized finance applications and everything came into being. There were so many transactions that had to be processed. And for all those transactions to get processed, people just had to pay very, very high fee. So this was literally killing the ecosystem per se. Even just imagine to send one transaction, you have to pay somewhere around 5,000, 6,000 rupees, right? Now, it even beats the purpose of having a blockchain. To solve this and to also solve the infinite supply problem, what the London Fork had done was, now again, this London Fork is part of a bigger project, which is the Ethereum 2.0, which is mainly focused towards moving towards something called a proof of stake. Let me get into detail later, right? Now, whatever is happening is called a proof of work, which is, let's consider it's a much more expensive problem, not an environmentally friendly operation that is happening, which is being moved towards something called a proof of stake. To move towards proof of stake, there is a series of interventions the Ethereum Foundation or the Ethereum community have to do. Now, London Fork is one of the interventions that they have to do in this long roadmap. So now what has happened, every time when a transaction happens, the fee does not completely go to the miner. So the fee has been split into three parts. There is a base fee, there is a reward fee, and there's a max fee. Right? Let's just take these two fees, right? Now the base fee is set depending on the traffic, right? When the traffic is very high, the base fee is set high. When the traffic is low, the base fee is set low. So this base fee gets burnt, right? When I say burnt, it moves out of the system, right? Now imagine if there's 10,000 Ethereum that is around, right? That has ever been mined. Suddenly 50,000 Ethereum goes out of the system, right? So it creates more demand because of the lesser supply, right? So with less supply, there's even a higher demand. So it starts to become a deflationary asset, right? So this is one of the key interventions that has happened. This is one of the major reasons. That's why we saw Ethereum prices also skyrocketing in the last couple of months, right? Though there was a bit of a correction. So this is one of the key interventions that has happened. Apart from that, there has been some interventions which we thought could affect miners who are mining Ethereum, which we thought that their earnings will reduce since partly is getting burnt and everything. But we've not seen their earning getting affected, at least in the past 5 to 6 days. They're earning as much as they earned before. Just on a comparison, right? Within the 2 days of the London Fork, almost 5,000 Ethereum, close to $14 million of Ethereum were burnt, right? So this is considered positive. Now, the larger goal is moved towards an Ethereum 2.0, where it will help, fee reductions and everything. This particular London Fork will not help in reducing fee per se, but it will bring in more transparency to the system. Now, usually what happens, previously when I had to send an Ethereum transaction, I would not have an actual idea of what is the fee I have to put so that my transaction gets included. Usually it so happens that people used to pay higher fees than what is required. Now that problem has gotten solved. From a customer's perspective, there's a bit of rationalization on the fee that we pay now.
So, Vikram, I also want to ask, trying to understand what you have said. So, you said that one of the use cases of Ethereum is NFT, and we have seen in NFT that transaction fees is much higher when it comes to Ethereum when compared to Polygon, or when we compared it with the Binance coin. So, will this update have an impact on the cost or gas fee of NFT? Do you see that?
Per se, this update will not affect the cost much, right? I mean, there could be little savings, right? Because previously, we were dependent on other sources to understand what is the fee I should pay, right? Usually we call them oracles, right? So we used to depend on the other sources to understand. Okay, no, this is the congestion in the network. So maybe if I pay this much, it'll get into the blockchain, right? Now what is happening? The network itself is setting a base fee, saying that okay, now this is a safe fee. On top of it, you can give some reward for it to get approved into the blockchain. So partly it might reduce a fee, but I don't see this particular update doing anything on reducing the Ethereum fee per se. Now, still we are dependent on layer two applications like Polygon, which is Matic, to have a lesser fee when it comes to running any contract like an NFT.
Okay, Vikram, there are thousands of cryptocurrencies, and Ethereum is the second largest, but we have many new cryptocurrencies coming up. So, how do you see it? How do you see the future of Ethereum? If I can point out that since the beginning of this year, while Bitcoin has given the return of around 50%, Ethereum has given as high as 300%. So, do you think will this trend continue, or the new cryptocurrencies will take and replace these old cryptocurrencies?
See, now I would try to answer it this way, right? Now, Ethereum's age is now what, 6 years, right? Bitcoin's age is now 10 plus, or maybe 11 years, right? So that is the age of these products, right? Now, they're 10-year-old baby, the other one is a 6-year-old baby. Still, they have a long way to go to prove that, okay, they are going to stay in the market forever. Now, if you ask me about Bitcoin, I'll be much more bullish, right? Yes, I'm much more bullish that Bitcoin will stay in the market for very, very longer time, right? Because Bitcoin is so simple, right? Usually people have this argument, right? Ethereum does so many things, Bitcoin doesn't do anything, right? It's just a store of value. Actually, that is the advantage of Bitcoin, right? It doesn't have to prove in all fronts. It just has to prove in one front, which is the store of value. Now, on the other hand, I'll say both the positive and the pros and cons when you what you should think about an Ethereum, right? Ethereum's developer community is very, very strong, right? Now, for example, the proof of stake that what they're trying to implement, there are a couple of other cryptocurrencies which have already implemented it. But this particular community is taking so much time and effort. It is, it is doing a lot of tests, checking for any bugs, reversing it back, rolling new updates at every point of time, and bringing in a new technology. Now, compare it with something like, a Linux, right? Which developers around the world put in their mind and they keep giving inputs and they build something. So that product in comparison with, let's compare Microsoft or any organization, which is an organization built product, a single organization built product. So an open source always works beautiful or is almost bug free or anything compared to a single organization built product. So in that perspective, what we are seeing, the Ethereum developer community and the products and the roadmaps that they're having is amazing. It's simply amazing, right? Now, will they be, after 5 to 6 years or 10 years, will this be the winner? We still have to wait and watch, right? As I said, it's still a 5 to 6 year old baby, which is doing good. It's the baby. It's very healthy. It's doing really good, doing magic, right? But will there be another product to beat this? There might be, right? There could come another product with some beautiful technology that could beat this even. But having said that, it should have a developer community that is as good as better than Ethereum, which is very, very tough to achieve, right? But having said that, it's not impossible, but it's very tough to achieve.
Vikram, one last question before let you go. What are some of the other important cryptocurrencies which you think they are going to have a good future and which are backed by Ethereum? One cryptocurrency which comes to my mind is Polygon, but according to you, which are the other ones and how is the future of Polygon?
Now, to answer first about Polygon, right? It solves the core issue of Ethereum, right? Now, everyone who's using every project which is built on top of Ethereum, you will see them cribbing. Like, look at the fee that we have to pay, and why would any customer adopt us if we are on top of Ethereum? They have to pay so much fees, right? Being a lending app or being a cross-chain swap app or whatever it is, right? So the fee is so high, it literally kills the adoption of getting into Ethereum. Now, what Polygon is like more of a layer 2 app, as we call it. Let's just consider now Ethereum is like a big, broad highway. Now every car wants to enter into it. Now Polygon is more like a bus. You're saying, okay, guys, not everyone can enter. Just get on from the car, get into this big bus called Polygon, and let's just drive it through. So that's the beauty of Polygon, right? It solves that congestion problem that the Ethereum is currently having. So that is being used by a lot of other projects. Now, solution what it got is, okay, now I will make a lot of these transactions happen in a less cheaper way. The implementation of the solution is humongous, right? I can use it in DeFi space, I can use it in NFT space. So this power that Polygon has brought in is really good, right? Now, so that's one of the reasons is Polygon is being heavily adopted by a lot of projects, right? Now, apart from Polygon, so yes, Polygon is a pretty good project. It is doing really good, and its adoption is also amazing. What we are seeing. Now, there are a lot of other products as well. If you see what is actually being built on top of Ethereum, is there are three type of major products, as I can see, right? One is a stable coin, for example, a USDC, a USDT, or a DAI. A lot of these stable coins which are being built on top of Ethereum, which is seeing a lot of traction. Right? Since the beginning of the stable coins, we've been seeing a lot of traction, and the demand is just increasing. Now, the second major thing is the DeFi space, right? DeFi space is extremely booming, right? Since the last 2 years has been like golden period for the DeFi space. A lot of new projects, right? When I talk about in DeFi space, think cryptos you can look into is something like a Com, a Lend, an Aave. There are a lot of these new DeFi projects. I mean, a lot of these DeFi projects are doing really good in the Ethereum space. Now, the third thing is NFT, right? Which is hot and happening. A lot of NFTs are being built. So NFT is one hot space that you can look into even, which is still booming. There are even this, since you mentioned Matic Polygon, the Polygon is also, the Polygon Studio has partnered and is coming up with the cricket NFT even, which is something interesting. Razor, if I'm not wrong, with the name of the project, is something you can look into even. So these are three spaces which are booming in the Ethereum space. I think I've even given names of the projects that you should look into in this.
Thanks, Vikram. Thank you for de-jargonizing and making it very simple, because Ethereum looks like a complicated subject, but the way you have explained it, it was really very clear. Thank you once again for coming on the show. It was wonderful to have you. So this is Vikram explaining us what is Ethereum, what is the future of Ethereum, and what are the other Ethereum backed currencies which have promising future. If you like the video, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thank you for being on Money9.